Good evening to one and all. My name is Rohit Taneja. I am an associate partner in Draft and Draft Law Firm. I would like to thank all of you for joining us for this webinar today on a very, very busy Wednesday evening here in India. And those of you joining us from the US, a very warm good morning to all of you. We have a webinar that is titled The Inevitable Evolution, Transitioning and Future of Law Firms. Quite a heavy topic that we have on our hands today. Before we start, I would like to take this opportunity to introduce our esteemed panelists. I will start with today we have with us Melinda Scott. She is a seasoned attorney with 17 years of experience in alternative asset management. She has successfully guided hedge funds, private equity, venture capital clients through SEC, state, and NFA regulatory audits. Her expertise include handling regulatory filings, structuring investment vehicles across multiple global jurisdictions, such as Cayman, Ireland, Luxembourg, and others. She has a deep understanding of the investment process from both the buy and the sell sides. A very warm welcome to you, Melinda. Next up, we have Ms. Isha Sharma joining us from India. Ms. Sharma is globally acclaimed legal expert and entrepreneur. She is the driving force behind Triambak and Whiteroyd, the firms that she runs. She has a proven track record of success in complex legal matters worldwide. She brings a unique blend of tech and law to our alliance. She has been recognized as one of the exceptional contributors to the legal fraternity. She has been recently honored with the prestigious Global Women in Business and Leadership Award in 2023. A very warm welcome to you, Isha.
Thank you, Rohit.
Next, we have Niyati Ahuja, who is joining us again from the US. Firstly, a very good morning to you, Niyati. And Niyati is a senior associate in the New York office of Reed Smith. She has been admitted to practice in India and New York. She represents global corporations and individuals in international commercial disputes involving breach of fiduciary duties, shareholders and joint venture disputes, investment disputes involving breach of stabilization and concession agreements. She has also successfully represented mining companies, banking institutions, and individual investors in the United States disputes involving breach of agreements, investor protections, and shareholder disputes. Niyati is also the founder of Indian Women in Arbitration, International Arbitration, I beg your pardon, an organization dedicated to empowering and promoting women in the field. She has acted as a facilitator for the Young ITA membership program for 2 consecutive years now. A very warm welcome to you, Niyati.
Thank you. Thanks, Roy. Thank you for the invite. I'm very happy to be here.
So we'll directly dive into the topic. The topic that we have today is the inevitable evolution, transitioning, and the future of law firms. So just an introduction that how do we define relevance in today's world, given that we are now out of the pandemic. COVID hit us in 2020 and everything was in a complete standstill. To what firms were earlier to what we have now, I think we have seen quite a transition, and I think the best is yet to be seen ahead. Talking about transitioning, we have disruptive forces in the legal market now, something which we lawyers thought that we will adapt later in the line. But considering COVID, I think the lawyers were the first to grasp onto the opportunity and grab it with both hands. Technology has created a boom and sort of eased the life of a lawyer a bit, if I may say so. So I'll throw the question firstly, then we can discuss it open. To all the panelists here, what kind of technologies or AI has your firm adopted and how is it beneficial? I'll start with you, Melinda, if you could come in, please.
Well, the type of law that I do doesn't really lend itself to AI because fund documents in and of themselves are very unique documents, unique to each individual fund, and they're bespoke to that fund. So in that sense, I'm not using any AI to create any of those documents. In terms of regulatory filings, some of those regulatory filings can be automated. But again, the types of formats that can be uploaded into the SEC system are, still along the lines of some sort of Excel format that can be uploaded. It's not that advanced in terms of technology.
Right. Thank you for that. Niyati, I would come to you for this, considering you are working as a senior associate in ReadSme. We've heard the name, we know how big a law firm that is. And how has your firm, if at all, it has adopted any tech or AI? Has it been beneficial, and how? If
So AI, I think it's not new. We have used, and even at my previous firms, we've been using doc review platforms which have AI so that we can review a large amount of documents at the same time. So sometimes we receive over 100,000 documents from our clients to review in a short period of time. So we are able to use the AI within those document review platforms to basically help with predictive coding. So the lawyers code a sample set of documents, and that helps us identify the most likely to be non-responsive documents. That really helps us make that process faster. In particular with ReadSmith, we are very alert. I think at least my firm is very alert to AI, and clients will be wanting that we use it to not bill as many hours to make sure that we're doing our work as efficiently as possible. So in May of this year, we have, I think we're one of the few firms now, we have a director of applied AI. So he is looking into how we can use AI effectively within our firm in our day-to-day, because it is a full service firm. So there's many ways that AI can be used, especially for drafting documents, things like that. But of course, we're also alert to the fact that we want to make sure that whatever tools that we use comply with all the non-disclosure or confidentiality obligations that lawyers have. So we have to make sure as we're moving forward that we're balancing both, making everything efficient, but also making sure that the confidentiality is maintained for any documents or anything that we're able to do. We do have Harvey AI. I think we still have the trial of Harvey AI, which is a legal tech company, which can help summarize documents. I've used it. It's not been very helpful, being very candid, but it is a tool, and I think lawyers are legal tech companies are really trying to make their product tailored to what our needs would be. So that's been my experience.
Isha, I would like you to come in. Given that India is a little slow in adapting to AI, this is a concept that we are hearing will come up, and I think some of the big firms have already invested a lot of time in AI and are developing their own AI tool in their firm. How do you see this coming and affecting something specific to India? We've got the US perspective, but how do you see this coming into India? That is the first. And again, the question to you, what I've asked to Niyati and Melinda already, are you personally using any form of technology or AI to make yours, the working a little bit smooth, or how has the experience been?
Sure. So, Rohit, I'll just add to what Niyati was saying.
Of course.
And primarily with an Indian perspective, coming from more of the IP background, because I also worked in technology and legal field. So it's actually a combination that we run. And the primary work is more focused on the technology part. So we've been using a lot of softwares which are integrated with AI from a very beginning stage. I would say like probably 10 to 13 years back since then. But that, as you rightly said in the beginning, that COVID changed a lot. So even before COVID, IP moved more on the digitization, like the virtual happenings, your virtual hearings were happening before COVID also. And then it moved entirely into virtual platforms. So unless you request for a physical hearing, that won't happen. It's all virtual nowadays. And similarly, we have like a lot of databases when it comes to conducting searches with respect to patents, trademark, because those are like I would say huge chunk of IP holding and tangible assets that you have to run at a one go. As Nidhi was saying, that with respect to documentation review, like on the IP front, this these kind of softwares helps a lot. And also we've been I mean, in the discussion more often, because there are those software developers come to us also for a feedback. So we have also told them that there are sort lot of searches which can be done on predictive analysis. So, like for example, a company wants to have a competitive predictive analysis. Like even the companies who are at the initial stage would be building those kind of technologies because they're moving in that direction. So all that is integrated, at least in IP, I can talk about, and we are moving more on this direction. But when it comes to India on a non-IP front, I would still feel that we still don't have GDPR or I would say data protection implementation yet. So integrating AI, we need to upgrade our IT Act and other laws which needs
Of
to be
course.
addressed before even coming to AI. So yeah, this is from my side.
And I would like to add my perspective as well, since I have been exposed to the litigation side of commercial law. Pre-COVID, we were literally on our toes. We had to run in and out of courts, and unless you have a team, just to have a practice or to build onto one was just not possible for you. I think COVID was a blessing in disguise to this extent that it allowed us to adapt technology rather very quickly than we thought we would. And now, at the ease of the convenience, sitting from our offices, we can log into any of the district courts or the high courts or even the Supreme Court for that matter. We can do virtual hearings. We are literally present everywhere across India and abroad as well. So this is something that I think has eased on to a lot of us. But with that, certain complications also has arisen because the data consumption has massively increased, which I think country like India was not expecting, especially from lawyers. And to that extent, I think it has eased quite a bit. And I would like to take this thing now to that with the advent of technology coming in, the expectations of the clients have risen to another level. I mean, earlier there was a gap, if I may say so, that a client had to, connect with the lawyer first. He had to take an appointment. The client would bill him for consultation and stuff like that. But now the technology coming in, everybody's virtually present everywhere. We have tools like LinkedIn coming in. We have mails being circulated all around in the high courts or in the Supreme Court for that matter. So now we are easily accessible. Given that the client's expectations have been like that lawyers are round the clock available, they are available 24 hours. So my question to all of you, how do we as lawyers deal with that expectation level and to deliver that much amount of quality which we were earlier delivering with the advent of the technology coming in? I know things have eased out a bit, but the expectation levels have just been unable to match. If I could have anyone, if you, I'll start with you, Isha. If you could come in there, please.
Sure. So this has actually happened with me recently. Like some of the clients said that maybe you can use ChatGPT to draft a patent application. So that went on a funny note. And I told them that, see, I do understand that technology is making it easy. So maybe you can draft an email and send it to somebody, but not a legal document, and especially not a techno legal document. So which would require like a lot of human intellect and all the possible aspects that you can think of. So whatever AI we have right now is good enough for predictive analysis. I'll just repeat that thing what I've said, but not completely relying on the documentation part. You can't just remove the human intellect part unless and until, as Rohit, you also have a court practice, so you understand that every case is different. And in our practice also, every IP is different. Even if I talk about non-IP matters, then every aspect is different. So unless you have all that data fetched into a software, you can't actually reach to 100% accurate AI prediction. So I give that as a reason, and to the clients. And of course, if they are coming to you, they just probably assume that your time would be on a more of a faster deliverable manner, rather than you completely relying on a technology. So they're not coming to you to actually do the work through those softwares and technology, but more on like, if in case it can be done on a faster manner, like we use certain platforms which generates minutes of meeting. We use certain platforms which helps us in documentation review or a brief writing, because every single day, if you're coming up with a 100-page or a 200-page document, you would need a kind of a summary which can help you to narrow it down. So those kind of I would say steps can be taken care of.
Right. Thank you for that, Isha. Niyati, I would want you to jump in here, please. Reachmeet, as we are all aware, is a very, very large law firm. You have diverse sectors of areas that you practice in. You've dealt with like a number of clients at the same time. How has technology helped you ease out the burden, if I may say so, that you have been dealing with?
I think I don't think technology or clients' demands relating to technology have changed. So I do mostly international arbitration, both commercial and investor state, and usually the the amount in dispute is very, very high. It's in the millions or billions of dollars. So I have not actually, and I'll tell you very honestly, I've not had a client come up to us and be like, hey, you have to use technology or you have to use ChatGPT. We are using technology. We have been all of last 6-7 years that I have practiced. We have used technology in the most efficient way. I mean, our goal remains the same as before, which was to make sure that we are giving the clients the best work product using the whatever technology or whatever resources that we have. Obviously, bigger law firms have great resources. We have great research resources as well, like Juice Mundi and Kluwer, which are used for arbitration, which are now and have been building their own internal AI tools, and so has LexisNexis been. So all of these research platforms have been assisting lawyers like myself. What is on us is to get the adequate training to use them efficiently. I don't think there's been a pressure from the clients. It's just an internal pressure, so we can do more work at the same time and try to keep it moving. I mean, I think the expectation, especially in bigger law firms, is that you have to work according to the client's deadline, and that has been the case for many years. It's not new, and it's not changed because of technology. I don't think I've seen that expectation change. The expectation was always that you have whatever deadline is set by the client until when you have to produce a good product. It's been consistent in that case. It's just that we are able to use these resources a little bit better now and maybe serve a little bit faster and more clients. I think that's where we are going.
Right. Thank you for that. Melinda, I could quickly have your thoughts on that, please.
Well, yes, and I actually, sort of to dovetail off of what you were just saying, the research platforms over the years, and I've been here a bit longer than you have, they've always had some sort of AI component to it, but it was a bit more archaic when I started, where you would put in a few words and you would get some bizarre outcomes. And if you didn't have the exact particular search phrase correct, you wouldn't get what you wanted. So learning how to get those search phrases correct when I started out in the law, when you were using Westlaw and LexisNexis, was it was a great deal of your time learning how to do that. But I would have to say that today, in today's day and age, the clients want to be able to connect with you, outside of your office hours. So you can Zoom with somebody that's in a different time zone, practically 24 hours a day. to be able to talk to that client. And in-person meetings with your client have gone down, where you used to schedule time for the client to come into the office to go over documents. Now you're doing that virtually, where you're sharing your screen and going through the documents that way, as opposed to having them come in and walk through things. So I do believe that technology has changed the way that you interact with clients on a day-to-day basis.
Right, thank you. I believe that the legal market has evolved. I cannot particularly say that for the US, but for India, yes. I mean, we have seen a lot of changes in the last 5 years, so I think Isha would agree to me. One question to all of you, I would personally come into this, but we have seen disruptions in technology, such as we have the concept of virtual law firms now, which was unheard of, at least in India. We have the concept of hybrid working, like you can come 2 days a week, you have 3 days off or 4 days off. Earlier, that was not the case. And we also have a concept of ALSPs, that is alternate legal service providers, coming in, and that has increased significantly post COVID, is what my understanding of it is. And how has, that is a question to all of you, how has things like these affected any working in the conventional law firm, something that Melinda, you manage, Isha, you manage, and Niyati is working. How has the advent of such disruptions, has it at all affected the working of commercial law firms at all? Anyone could come in. So, Niyati, I would like to start with you.
Sure. That's an interesting question, because these remote law, so okay. So I'll talk about two things. One is that having these remote law firms, I don't think they are yet at the so our firm has 1,900 lawyers. It's just huge. So, and it's everywhere in the world. It's God, I don't even know how many offices we have, but we have offices in whatever country that you would name, except for India, by the way. So it's I don't think they're competing with us. There are these remote law firms. They obviously save on costs and save on all of those expenses that come with running an in-person law firm. So they're not competing with, I think, not yet with the bigger law firms, and maybe this is in 5 to 10 years that bigger law firms will consider the fact that people want to still work from home, and that's why they should be remote as well. But I think clients appreciate that we have offices in all these jurisdictions, and they appreciate that we will be, I think that's also about the reputation, that if we have offices in all of these jurisdictions, they're more likely to trust us in all these jurisdictions with their larger disputes and corporate and all other practice areas. Regarding hybrid working, I think we didn't have a policy for 2 years after COVID. We just, I think in May, started having a policy, which is we have to come in 3 days a week, and I think we're we're complying with it. It helps build relations, but I think during COVID and since then, we've learned to work so well just from home. I don't think there is a necessity for us to be in the office. Of course, for relationships, it is probably helpful, but I think generally I haven't thought that I could work better in the office as compared to home. I think I build more hours sitting at home and not commuting to the office and all of that. And I think people, at least our generation, have noticed, my generation have noticed that we work equally well at home and from work. And I think from the older generations, they were so used to going to the office that they want that to be the baseline again. So we'll see how that goes.
Right. Melinda, I will come to you, considering that you run your own law firm and you maybe are not as big as something like a Reed Smith. How would you take these disruptions, like virtualization of law firms and ALSPs coming in? You have a lot of work that is being outsourced now, considering the costs in mind. What are your thoughts on these?
Yeah, I do think that there's been a lot of change since pre-COVID and after COVID. And I do think in pre-COVID, I don't think that a virtual law firm could have worked. because people expected to come into your office to meet with you. So I think that that type of structure could only take off and could only work post-COVID when everyone just became so comfortable with Zoom meetings for every manner of getting things done. That said, there is a benefit to being into the office. And in my practice, I do need physical signatures of things. And in those cases, it is good to meet with the client to get those physical signatures or to notarize their signatures so that they can be submitted to the appropriate regulatory authority. So face-to-face meetings still do occur. They just don't occur as often as they did in the past. And in terms of hybrid working, it was always in the legal community remote login. And I know in some other firms, remote login was only part of your business continuity plan for disruptions. But in the legal community, remote login was so that you could go home and continue working extraordinarily long hours into the evening and still be able to access your files that are on the computer system. Now, and especially post-COVID, you'll see there's been so much more integration in how you can access your files from different locations. So, and especially during COVID when people were deciding to work from Paris for 6 months or some other location, that you can be able to log into your main database and share files and access files. I think that that's one of the things that's one of the very good disruptive natures, that the ability to access and to work can be done from any location, anywhere with ease now. And especially being a smaller law firm, being able to work when you're traveling and to be able to always access those files is a disruption that I welcome. But then going back to the hybrid work, there is always a benefit to being into the office, and there is always a benefit to interacting and with other attorneys and getting a different point of view.
Right. Thank you for that. I think I can say this with utmost confidence. I think India has been one of the biggest beneficiaries of disruptions in the legal market, because I think a lot of work that has been outsourced is coming to India. I think Isha can also vouch for that, considering she also does trademarks abroad and in multiple jurisdictions, I believe. Isha, quickly, can I have your thoughts? Has technology disruptions helped us in any way, or how do you see the way forward?
Sure. So I'll give you a different perspective.
Of
I
course.
do understand that US market runs on a different aspect altogether. So when COVID happened, we were forced to go virtual, right? So digitization and virtual meetings were something which we were not very equipped of. Like apart from the standard filings, I'm talking more about the client interaction that we were having. So the client always wanted us to have a meeting which can be considered offline, although that moved to online and virtual. But if I talk about the probably the efficiency of your team, I would still consider the offline meetings or the offline setup more productive in comparison to virtual. Maybe with the bigger law firms, it's a different set of practice because they have every system in place. But being a boutique firm, it becomes really, really difficult for the entire coordination when it happens with your team. So I actually genuinely feel that if you're sitting in an office for maybe a defined period of time, it is more effective and productive. But when it comes to certain conditions where you have to act virtually, like we also do a lot of international work. So when an international work needs to be done, we actually rely on the different law firms which we have never met. So on that aspect, the virtual world has probably moved to a different level. But again, coming back to the team, I personally feel that it's more effective. And we usually don't entertain hybrid working models unless it is a kind of a mandate or a medical condition, to be very honest. With clients, yes, we have to do it because we, as I was telling you, for pan India and global clients, we do work. So everybody can't come to your office or you can't go and meet them. So at that point of time, virtual makes some sense. So for me, it's kind of a hybrid. It's not like going entirely virtual doesn't make too much of sense to me.
Right. Thank you for that. With that, I think we'll be slightly taking a different perspective now in given sense. What I have seen personally is that since the last 5 years or so, the law firms mostly were lawyer centric, which is now gradually transitioning or maybe has rather changed to much more client focused and client centric. Client is giving much more importance, be it speedy work that is being given, or you have cost effectiveness that is coming up. The competition has increased immensely. And I think this would be a question to both Isha and Melinda, considering you manage your own law firm. Uh, what do you think has, I mean, why this change from lawyer centric to much more client centric as we see now or we have experienced now? Would I have any of you coming in? Melinda, we'll start with you.
Yeah, so I'll start with this one. And I will say that technology probably has something to do with this, in that clients will Google what they want before they talk to you. And they believe that they know uh, much more of the law than you do when they walk through your door sometimes. And then you have to um, explain to them that what they've Googled may not be a full picture of the law and of all of the different regulatory concerns that you may need to consider. It's just an overview of certain things. So I do believe that clients come to you with a higher level of expectation, and they come to you with a higher level of information than they could have come to you with in the past. And I think that changes the dynamic. I do believe that clients also are cost conscious as well. And they understand the structure of law firms, and they want to ensure that if there are 6 attorneys working on a project, that all 6 of those attorneys have a reason for working on that project, and you're not just padding the bill there. So they're much more sophisticated in looking at the bill and negotiating their bill, and with their understanding of the law. So I think that makes it much more client-centric than it was in the past.
Right. Thank you for that. Isha, could I have quickly your perspective considering in India? Because I think in India we have seen a massive, massive transitioning wherein the clients are up to speed with lawyers, clients are much more aware. I mean, sometimes they even send you the online links of codes that you may not have. In that ways, I think the quality of legal advice has gone up for sure, but it has increased a lot of competition amongst smaller firms as well. And how do you, as a managing partner of your firm, see this? Why has this transition to client centric become much more important as to what we did not think it was earlier?
So apart from being well informed, as Melinda pointed out, that they have the information on internet, so they basically know what they want. They're reaching out to multiple lawyers or multiple law firms, to be very honest, to probably seek a free legal opinion also, and actually seek a strategy also. So I believe too much of options available over the internet and accessibility for them to reach out to them, because nowadays what is happening is that after 2 3 years of work experience, everybody is starting with their own independent practice, and that has resulted into too many I would say lawyers and law firms which are already existing there. So client is well aware about that fact, so after reading and everything, they come to those law firms, they try to analyze that which one should we go ahead, but the ultimate deciding factor is going to be the cost, unless it is a case of an arbitration or probably a criminal proceedings. Other than that, everything is something which they can always negotiate and go to another person. So being a boutique firm, to be very honest, we have to strike a balance between what experience do we have and what is the lowest quotation or the fee structure that we can provide to our client. So unless and until you're okay to let it go, people will not understand their own worth and also your worth. So this is how we deal. But I believe too much of information and too many options is the main reason for this.
Right. Thank you. Niyati, I would now like to come to you. Could you give us a perspective of how or not your firm has changed or evolved over the years, considering the competition has immensely increased? Could I have your thoughts on that?
Sure. So I think firms, at least the firms that I've been at, have always been very client-centric, as in client-focused. As I mentioned, it is also related to the practice area. It's very, very dependent on the practice area. That's what I do want to say. Like Melinda's practice is different from Isha's and mine. So all of us are seeing different things in our own practice areas. I do mostly international arbitration. So my clients are usually have not been, I think majority of them have not been based in the US. They have been elsewhere. And we have always tried to accommodate, either we travel to them. So one thing that I have seen since COVID is that we've stopped traveling as much. We do all of our meetings through Zoom. But we are very, very happy when the client is visiting us, because that's one of our like once in a year opportunities to meet them in person. And we appreciate that opportunity, because that's where you make the relationships, you know. The legal field is about relationships. That's one of the things, in addition to how much we charge, that helps you get the client. That is how, I mean, as I am also building my practice, I have been having phone calls and Zoom calls and all of that with other firms. With respect to Reed Smith, I think I don't think there has been a big move in the way it functions. Of course, there has been a steady and increase in the billing rates. The billing rates, as in how much we bill our lawyers at to our clients, because there have been a raise in the salary scale. That's what we're seeing in the US. In the US, all the big law firms are on the same salary scale, and that has been getting pushed to higher and higher by some of the law firms, and that pushes the law firm itself to increase the rates that they're charging to their clients. And so it's kind of like a circle, and you have to manage. And Reed Smith is usually flexible, and we work with our clients' needs and expectations. But some firms are not flexible. Some of the even larger firms than Reed Smith are not flexible, and their rates are really high. So we have to make sure we are competitive, as in we still have the higher rates, because you have to pay good salaries to your lawyers so that they work at your law firm. But you also want to make sure that the clients are not burdened, that they don't turn to you. So Reed Smith, I think, has a good balance right now that I'm seeing some of the larger firms do not have. They're very rigid on their rates. And some of the smaller law firms are able to be even more flexible than us. The advantage we have is that we have such a big global presence that we are able to just like tell the client, hey, we can do everything internally. We can go to our London office, we can go to our Paris office, the Dubai office, and we'll get you all the advice at the same time, which some other firms are not able to do. So we need to keep upskilling as well as make sure that the rates are managed. I think those are the two things that are that law firms in the US are trying to do well.
Thank you, Niyati. Niyati, one particular question that I would like to point out to you. You've done your law from India, and thereafter you've gone on to do your master's from the US, and you are currently working in US. Whatever experience you've had working in India, and considering now you're working in the US, could you just throw a light to our audience that how is the work culture different? And has the client-centric approach, like you said, is prevalent in the US since the beginning, has been there in India, or has India been transitioning to this approach? Your thoughts on that, please.
So full disclosure, I moved to the US in 2017. And before that, the work that I did in India was mostly internships. as an intern, you don't see what I see now as a senior associate, right? So the exposure that I got then as compared to now is obviously different. And the technology and AI boom that has happened in the last 6-7 years wasn't there back when I was in India. I did still think that everybody was working very long hours. Indian law firms work very, very hard. So I think there was some sort of client-centric approach still there. That is why we were working so hard all the time. As compared to work culture, that is something I can definitely tell you. I think, at least in my practice and my experience, there is less of a hierarchy in the US. I think I see that even now when I'm talking to people who are working in India, because I still have friends. There is still a very strong hierarchy that the junior most person is not really speaking in meetings, but in the US, since I started practicing, I put forward my thoughts, my ideas, opinions, and they are considered. I don't feel like it's encouraged and considered. So that's something that I think there's a big stark difference. Still, like to date, there is too much of a strict hierarchy in Indian law firms. And in US and I think the Western law firms, your thoughts are encouraged and considered, and no matter what level you're at least that's been my experience. I don't know if other people have had different experiences, but there's more of a, we're all colleagues rather than where one of us is. Obviously, you're given work according to your experience, but also you're encouraged to speak at meetings if you have good ideas, which I think was a little bit lacking. And sometimes at more junior levels, you're not really talking to the partner that much. And I'm talking about bigger law firms because that's where I interned when I was in India. You don't get FaceTime with partners, but here I have, since my first year of practice, had a lot of FaceTime with partners. And that's not been a challenge at all. So that's one of the main work culture differences. Like, also, one more thing, this is an example because I used to do that when I moved to the US. You say sir and ma'am to people while addressing them in India. And everybody was like, no, never do that.
Yeah.
It has to be first name, because I used to so I graduated from sir, ma'am to saying miss whatever the last name is, or Mr. whatever the last name is. And it was just like, no, first name, what's up with you? But so that's the kind of change that I had to make. And apart from that, like from the practice perspective, I think how we draft, because my practice and I think litigation generally requires a lot of drafting, that is very different. So that's maybe our legal training. In India, we do tend to write longer sentences, things like that. And in the US, I think even for the bar exam, we had to learn what the structure of writing is, and it's very precise, very succinct. So there is a writing style difference definitely in India and the US. So those are 3 differences. But if I sat with you for longer, I could definitely tell you more. But yeah.
Thank you so much. So I'd want to take it forward now. We are living in very, very uncertain times. For the last 5 years, we've seen COVID happen. The geopolitical situation is not very good around the world. We've seen Russia has invaded Ukraine. You've seen unrest lately in Bangladesh that is happening. So geopolitically, I think everything is changing, and we are living in very, very uncertain times. We don't know what lies ahead. With the advent of technology, it's another disruption that is coming in. So it is a hard balance between the two. Now, the question that I'd like to put to all of you is, given that you're working in respective law firms or managing ones, how does one build a resilient and adaptable law firms with the constantly changing times that we've seen? Like, for example, I can give you here in India, we have the criminal laws being changed completely. Since July, we have new criminal laws being imposed. And that's a task for us lawyers to firstly understand, then to interpret. And given the whole dynamics of things around the world and around the globe, how do we be more resilient as a law firm? And how do we deal with uncertain times like these, which we have never, I think, experienced before in the last decade or so? Would I have any one of you coming up and answering that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
let's Melinda take that, please.
I'd have to say that having a law firm in the securities area, over the last few years, you've seen the SEC made a lot of changes in terms of regulatory obligations of the people in the area. And then you've seen a lot of those regulations be challenged, and the SEC has actually lost in some of those cases, and that's changed the way that you've reacted to things. So I think then being nimble, being able to react to the change, being able to anticipate some of that change is how you can be resilient as a law firm. But always with the understanding that the law is a living, breathing thing, and it's always going to continuously change. And we always have to be continuously reading and continuously learning to be able to stay on top of what the next steps are for your law firm.
Right. Isha, I'd come to you now, considering that India has been changing a lot, and we have very, very uncertain times ahead. Any tips for any other attorneys, both India and abroad, but you'd like to give that how to be more resilient and adaptable to change?
I think adaptability is the only solution. You can't do much about it. Like we learned how to live during the COVID times, we learned how to live during the tough times in our life. We kind of adapt to all the situations. And when it comes to global scenario, I believe it's same for everybody. Like to be very honest, with the given war situation, we've actually worked with certain firms who are fighting in that war kind of a situation and still working it out. Probably the service would be little delayed, but they're still working. So I don't see this as a challenge to be able to work in a together fashion or a globalization world unless something just goes off. Other than that, everybody is going through the same situation. So if you have some challenges in a particular geography, because we do a lot of international work, and when that work is being uh, in a difficult kind of a situation, then we inform our clients that the situation is there, so maybe it will take some time but it will be done. So with that kind of an approach and adaptability, if something can't be done, it can't be done. Otherwise, I believe that in my personal opinion, whenever I've worked with somebody, in the worst case scenario also, just with a delay, works get done. So adaptability and being a little patient is the only thing that I can say with my own personal experience in this particular category.
Right. Niyati, I'd like to come to you now. How does law firm like yours adapt to change, be more resilient, and deal with these uncertain times?
I think I agree with Isha. I mean, we have through the years, I think this is not the first time that we're dealing with uncertain times. In 2010 we did, now we are in 2001 we did. So it's not the first time we are we are faced with challenging on uncertain times. Adaptability is the only solution. I think there is no other solution, because if you don't adapt, there is going to be 10, 20, 100 other law firms who serve your clients. So you have to keep up to speed. The other thing that I think we are continuously doing, and I think law firms have to continuously do, is invest in ensuring that your lawyers are constantly upskilling, in the sense that now we're seeing more crypto disputes, and which we were not seeing. So cryptocurrency is an area, artificial intelligence related disputes, because artificial intelligence is being used in every sphere of the world. It's not just the legal domain, but everybody is using AI. And so for us to keep learning, I think that is the most important thing, and firms need to keep investing in our learning and development, which I'm very happy to say Reed Smith does. Not all big law firms do, but I think Reed Smith is really tries to stay on its toes and tries to understand what is going on in the global world, and how we can understand better serve our clients, also understand the newer practice areas which are emerging because of all that is happening all around the world. So we're continuously learning and making sure that we're developing. Like for AI specifically, we now have a series on AI, which is in the public domain, by the way, which deals with practitioners from each practice area, which is like 10 practice areas or more within our law firm, sharing with the public how we are using AI in our specific practice areas. So like we have AI and international arbitration, we have AI and intellectual property, and all of those different domains. And I think that's something not a lot of law firms are doing. So just to say that Reed Smith is trying to make sure that we are learning, we're sharing what we are learning with the world as well. We're very strong on publishing. We publish a lot of client alerts, things like that, to make sure that we are up to date on what's happening in the world, but also share with our clients and the public that this is what's happening.
Right. Thank you for that. And I think we have discussed a lot around law firms, but I think the single most important thing that makes a law firm good or even the best is the team and the people in it. I would like to revolve more around how do we retain talent and how do we attract talent. Something that I think Melinda and Isha can help me more with, considering that they run their own law firms. So I think we've seen a trend that, as far as India is concerned, I can vouch for that, but that people now don't stay longer with firms as they used to. Like we could see people joining in a firm and they would just step up the ladder and they would spend close to a decade or maybe more in a law firm. I don't see that happening now. People are moving very quickly. The attrition rates are very, very high. And we have to deal with all the dynamics of what the current situation lies ahead. And unless we have a good team, and I don't think we'll be able to deal with all of that. So the single most important thing is how do you attract the talent and how do you retain, given that a full-size law firm like Reed Smith has diverse set of practice areas, and you have diverse set of lawyers. Similarly, Isha, like she's doing IP and she is very, very doing in a niche field. How do you attract talent and how do you retain it? Isha, I'd like to come to you with this firstly.
I think probably I need to learn this because this is one area where I'm struggling, still struggling. Even after 7 years, I can't retain anybody. So, yeah, coming back to the question, it is actually very difficult. I don't know about the different geographies, but it is definitely very difficult in India. So, probably after a few years, they come up with an expectation which we can't match, or probably due to different reasons. Usually, the talented team does take an exit. But what we are trying at our level is that whatever benefits we can give as a boutique firm, because if you compare it with a top tier firm, we won't be able to give to that extent. But whatever exposure we can give to them, because sometimes a good candidate would actually look for an exposure. So it is categorized into different parts because as the human brain will act different in different situations and you can't anticipate a candidate as such. But what we do as a practice now is that we sit with them at the interview level only. We try to analyze and understand that what is their goal in life, right? So if somebody wants to purely get into a non-IP practice, then getting into our firm will not give them that much of exposure. Or if somebody wants to get into a practice area which is different from what we do, again, not a very good thing to do. So we try to analyze, and also for how long are they willing to stay in one firm is what we try to anticipate. I don't think we are always right on that part, not 100%, but probably like 50-60%. If you talk to somebody, people usually tell you what is their future plan. But yes, again, I believe that there is no right answer to this. No matter what you try, there will always be people who would like to take an exit. What you can do is you can give them the best kind of a setup that they would work on in terms of work opportunity, in terms of exposure opportunity, in terms of, I would say, communication as well. Like Niyati pointed it out, that it's hard in Indian firms to reach out to partner level. So we try to bridge that gap, that if there are any concerns, it should be that friendly. They can always reach out to you and put that concern. If you're able to address it, it's fair enough. I mean, they would stay. If you're not able to address it, then it's their own personal decision. Sooner or later, people would go. So that's what we do in our firm. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank
Melinda, I'd like to gather your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I would like to say that it's similar here too, that in the past you would start with a law firm and you would stay with the law firm. But with younger generations, there's a lot more movement and there's expectation for movement there. You see a lot more movement between law firms. So I think one of the things that you have to focus on is a work-life balance, which is not something that was ever really discussed in the law in the past, but it's something that's more important now, and it's more important to younger generations. So it's something that you have to take into consideration when you're talking to them and when you're working with them on projects. And then I think also as a smaller boutique law firm, one of our benefits is that you get to work on the entire project. You're not siloed off into one aspect of the project. So you learn the entire document, you learn the entire process, which may not be the case in a larger law firm, or may not be the case until you move up the ranks in a larger law firm. And you also get more time with clients, where you get to actually speak to the client and participate in client meetings. And, you do learn more different aspects of different types of law because you're a smaller boutique law firm. So you are able to reach into other areas of law and you're not siloed into one area of law. And another thing to discuss with them is a clear partnership track and ensuring that there is a path to partnership for them.
Right, thank you. Niyati, I would like to change the question for you because I think how has Reed Smith come to you and retained you, a talented lawyer like yours, for now?
Yeah, I only joined 6 months back, so I'm still new at Reed Smith. I was at another big law firm before that. So I think it is very important for all law firms, including mine, to make sure that there is diverse talent at the top. For somebody like me, a brown female, I really appreciate seeing more people or women of color at the top. That's something I think all big law firms have to work at. It is one of the main factors that will make me stay in the long run, or until I become a partner myself. That's a different way of retaining as well. But providing sources and providing good opportunities, I think is of utmost importance, especially to diverse talent, giving them the opportunities that maybe their other non-diverse colleagues are getting. I think that's something law firms need to make sure they're doing. Of course, giving them opportunities to have client contact, all of that, and understanding what the long-term goals are. Like Melinda said, work-life balance is very important. Not everybody wants to make partner. Not everybody wants to deal with the stresses of being a partner. So I think law firms are now, when you're in your 7th or 8th year, they speak with you. They understand if you want a promotion or you want us to stay like that, and you don't want to make partner, which is completely fine with law firms. Then they're investing in your growth in a different way, as compared to if you do want to make partner, you have to do more business development, all of that. I think there's a lot more communication about all of this. Like I think Isha also mentioned that there is a lot of communication about these things. The other thing that Reed Smith is doing is we have our junior associates retreat, we have our mid-level retreat, we have our senior associates retreat, which is basically like a 2 or 3 day 2-day retreat where we have different panel sessions and we discuss topics which are important to different like class years. So for senior associates, obviously what is on our mind is what is the partnership track, what do I need to do right now, things like that. I think the more the firm communicates in in concrete terms that makes people stay, rather than just saying that, yeah, we will consider, this is just in the future. So having non-abstract terms and discussing about that, I think that's one good way of retaining talent. And I think the last thing is just be nice to everybody. I think that's one thing law firms need to and continue to work on. I think that I hear too much about toxic work culture, especially with law firms and within the legal community. And that's one thing, that's the main thing that would make me stay personally. If you're nice to me, if the team that I'm working with is nice to me, I think that holds more importance now to me as compared to like just money. I think money is important, but also working with just good people who are invested in your growth. I think those two things are important for anybody to stay at a law firm or leave, because we also see that people are moving every 2 years and things like that. So it's not just India, it's happening globally, I think now. People don't stay if it's a toxic work environment. So that's just to summarize that.
Of course, of course. I think we have had a few cases here in India as well about the toxic work culture. People leaving abruptly. You have posts coming in online, circulating on the social media. We, I think, have a couple of people very young committed suicides as well. So it's a matter of, I think, great concern both in India as well as abroad about the toxic work culture that we have. And I think law firms need to come forward and address this openly rather than just shunning it off. And thank you all. And I think we open the floor for questions now. Sagar, if we may.
Yes. Just give me a minute.
Okay, please, please, yes.
I think there is some question with us, and
Yes, Sagar. Hello.
yes, Rohit. I think
Yes.
you have the question. There are some question which is there with you. I have shared that in your inbox.
I don't see it in my chat box, sorry.
Just give me a second.
I'm sorry to all the panelists to keep you waiting amidst technical lag on our part. But I think we've had quite a fruitful discussion on what is the way forward, how is the transitioning and the future of law firms, what we see it. I think India has still far to catch up with where US already lies. And technology is the way forward, be it any sector. I think legal will open its arms and adopt technology with both hands. And along with the client-centric approach, and to sum it up, I think the changing times, we have to have a balance between all of the technology and the client-centric approach. As long as we need to, keep the talent, keep them happy, build a strong team. So I think we can give a way forward to everyone. That's, I think, the key takeaways from the session. Sagar, are we having any problem with the questions? Because I think we are already out of time and.
It's all right. It's the first technical glitch. I've had so many technical glitches in webinars, so it's the first one, so it's totally fine.
So I think then we'll end on that note because I don't see any questions. He may have sent it, but again, technical lag as we can't help it. As I said, India has still a long way to catch up on the technology aspect of it. So thank you, all of you. Thank you, the panelists, for taking out time for joining us for this webinar. It was indeed a pleasure to host you and moderate you. Diverse set of experiences. I certainly learned a lot, and I look forward to many more collaborations with you in the future. And if anyone wants to reach out to me, my email ID is rohit@draft&craft. Any of the questions that the speakers or the participants may have, you could reach out to us and we'll be happy to answer it. If you have any specific questions to the panelists, you can share it across to us, and I think we'll send it across forward and they'll be happy to answer. So thank you very much, all of you. I think we'll end on that note. It was great, and thank you all. Thank you. Thank you, Isha. Thank you.
Thank you, Rohit. And
Thanks,
nice meeting
Rohit.
you, Niyati and Melinda.
Likewise,
Lovely to
Isha
meet
and
everyone.
Melinda. It was really nice to meet you. And Rohit, thanks for organizing it. I think it was excellent.
Pleasure.
And if there are any questions, please put people in touch with us. I am happy to answer.
Definitely. We'll be happy to answer. Right. Thank you, all of you. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.